My name is Emma Reeves, and I was 23 years old when I died for 47 seconds on an operating table at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. I didn't know I'd died until later, of course. What I knew at the time was only what anyone knows in the moment before a crisis. That something was very wrong, that the world had narrowed to the space between heartbeats, and that the people around me were moving with the particular urgency that means you're the emergency. I'd gone to Mass General because of chest pain that had started 3 days earlier. Not dramatic pain at first, just a tightness that came and went, the kind of thing you tell yourself is stress or poor sleep or too much coffee. I was in my last semester at Boston University studying graphic design, working 2 part-time jobs to cover what my scholarship didn't, sleeping maybe 5 hours a night. Chest tightness felt like a reasonable response to that life. By the 3rd day, the tightness had become pressure, and the pressure had become pain that made it hard to breathe. My roommate Maya found me sitting on the bathroom floor of our apartment in Allston at 2 in the morning, trying to decide if I was dying or just panicking about the possibility of dying. She called an Uber. We went to the emergency room. By the time we arrived, I was gray-faced and sweating, and the triage nurse took one look at me and moved me to the front of the line. They found it fast. An aortic dissection, which is when the inner layer of your aorta tears and blood flows between the layers of the aortic wall, forcing them apart. It's rare in people my age. It's also often fatal if you don't get to surgery immediately. I was on the operating table within 90 minutes of walking through the emergency room doors. The hospital called my parents. Standard procedure for emergency surgery on a patient under 25. They called the number I had listed as my emergency contact, which was my mother's cell phone. My mother, Catherine Reeves, and my father, Paul Reeves, lived in Winchester, Massachusetts, about 20 minutes from the hospital without traffic. I learned what happened during that call later, pieced together from different sources, but here's the essential truth. My parents didn't come to the hospital. My older sister Lauren, who lived with them while finishing her MBA at Boston College, answered my mother's phone because my mother was in the shower. The nurse explained the situation. Lauren said, and these were her exact words according to the nurse who would later tell me this with visible discomfort, "She's not our problem anymore." Then she hung up. 40 minutes later, while I was in surgery, Lauren posted a photo on Instagram of the family at brunch of buttermilk and bourbon in Boston's Back Bay. My parents, Lauren, her boyfriend Marcus. 4 people at a table with mimosas and French toast, smiling at the camera. The caption said, "Living our best life." The timestamp on that post was 11:47 a.m. I went into cardiac arrest on the operating table at 11:52 a.m. I was clinically dead for 47 seconds before they got my heart started again. I woke up in the ICU 2 days later with tubes in places I didn't know you could put tubes. My Uncle Martin was sitting in the chair beside my bed, asleep with his chin on his chest and his reading glasses halfway down his nose. Uncle Martin was my father's younger brother, a high school history teacher who lived in Cambridge and who I'd always liked but hadn't seen much in recent years because he and my father had some kind of ongoing tension I'd never fully understood. I made a sound. He woke up immediately, the way people do when they've been waiting for something specific. He looked at me and his whole face changed. "Emma," he said. "Oh, thank God." Over the next hour, while nurses came and went and checked monitors and adjusted things, Uncle Martin told me what had happened. He'd heard about my surgery not from my parents but from Maya, who'd gotten his number from my phone and called him in desperation when nobody from my family showed up at the hospital. He'd arrived during the surgery. He'd been there when I crashed. He'd been there through the 47 seconds and the hours after, through the transfer to the ICU and the careful waiting to see if I'd wake up with brain damage from the time my heart had stopped. "Where are my parents?" I asked. Uncle Martin's expression did something complicated. "I called them," he said. "Multiple times. They know you're here. They know you had a complication during surgery. But they're not here." "No," he said. "They're not here." I was in the ICU for 6 days, then another week in a regular room. Uncle Martin came every day. Maya came when she wasn't at class or work, bringing me books and stupid videos on her phone and the kind of steady friendship that doesn't require words. My favorite professor from BU, Dr. Morrison, who taught my typography seminar, came once with flowers and a card signed by half my class. My parents never came. My sister never came. On the 4th day, my mother sent a text. "Glad you're doing better. We've been so busy with Lauren's graduation prep. We'll catch up soon." Lauren's MBA graduation was in 3 weeks. I read that text in my hospital bed and felt something in my chest that had nothing to do with my healing aorta. A final small thing breaking that had been cracked for years, finally splitting completely. On my 8th day in the hospital, Uncle Martin came with an envelope. He sat in the visitor's chair and held it for a moment before handing it over. "What's this?" I asked. "It's from your grandmother," he said. "My mother and your father's mother. You remember her?" I did, barely. Grandma Helen had died when I was 11, a sharp-minded woman who'd lived in Arlington and had always seemed to see me more clearly than my own parents did. I remembered her kitchen and her garden and the way she'd asked me real questions about what I liked and actually listened to the answers. "She left something for you in her will," Uncle Martin said. "Your father was supposed to give it to you when you turned 21. He didn't. I found out about it 6 months ago during a completely unrelated legal matter. I've been trying to figure out the right time to tell you. This seems like the right time." I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in my grandmother's handwriting and a set of legal documents. The letter said, "Emma, my dear girl. If you're reading this, I'm gone and you're grown. I hope you become the person I saw in you when you were small, the one with the careful eyes who noticed things other people missed. I'm leaving you the house in Arlington. Not because your father doesn't need it, but because you will. He has his life set. You're going to need a foundation to build yours on. The house is yours free and clear. Do something good with it. Love, Grandma Helen." The legal documents confirmed it. The house in Arlington, a small 3-bedroom cape on a quiet street near the Minuteman Bikeway, had been held in a trust for 12 years. The trust transferred ownership to me on my 21st birthday. My father, as executor of my grandmother's estate, should have informed me. He hadn't. "He kept this from you," Uncle Martin said quietly. "For 2 years. The house has just been sitting there. He could have sold it if you'd disclaimed the inheritance, but he couldn't access it because it's legally yours." I looked at the deed. The house on Forest Street in Arlington, Massachusetts. Property value estimated at around $600,000. Mine, apparently, since I was 21 years old. Why didn't he tell me? I asked. Uncle Martin's expression suggested he had theories but didn't want to share all of them. "Your father has never liked the idea that his mother saw something in you that she didn't see in him. And he's never liked that you were different from what he expected. Independent. Less manageable than Lauren. I was discharged from Mass General 11 days after my surgery. Uncle Martin drove me not to my apartment in Austin but to the house in Arlington. He'd been going there for the past week," he said, "cleaning it out, getting it habitable. My grandmother's furniture was still there, dusty but intact. The utilities had been kept on through the trust." I walked through the house slowly, my chest still tender, my whole body feeling like it had been taken apart and reassembled slightly wrong. The kitchen where Grandma Helen had made me cookies. The back garden where she'd grown tomatoes. The small bedroom that had been my father's room when he was young. This was mine. Not borrowed. Not contingent. Mine. I called my parents that evening from the house in Arlington. My father answered. "Emma," he said. "We've been meaning to visit. Things have just been hectic with Lauren's graduation." "I know about the house," I said. Silence. Grandma Helen left it to me, I said. You were supposed to tell me when I turned 21. You didn't. I was going to, he said. The timing never seemed right. The timing never seemed right for 2 years? You wouldn't have known what to do with it. You were still in school. It seemed better to wait. It wasn't yours to wait with, I said. It was mine. It's been mine since I was 21. Emma, don't be dramatic. We can discuss this like adults. I'm not being dramatic, I said. I'm being clear. I died on an operating table while you were at brunch. Lauren told the hospital I wasn't your problem anymore. You kept my inheritance from me for 2 years. I'm done pretending those things are normal. We're family, he said. We support each other. You don't get to say that word to me anymore, I said. Not after this. I'm 23 years old. I have a house. I have an uncle who actually showed up. I'm going to graduate and build my life, and you're not going to be in it unless you earn that right back, and earning it back would require an acknowledgement of what you did that I don't think you're capable of. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I sat in my grandmother's kitchen, in the house that was now my house, and cried for about 20 minutes. Then I called Maya and asked if she wanted to move to Arlington. I graduated from BU that May. Uncle Martin and Maya and Dr. Morrison were in the audience. My parents were not. Lauren posted a photo from her own MBA graduation with a caption about family pride. I didn't comment. I moved into the house in Arlington permanently that summer. Maya took one of the bedrooms and paid rent that helped with the property taxes. I got a job at a design firm in Cambridge, a small studio called Northlight Creative on Mass Ave that did brand work for local businesses. It wasn't prestigious, but it was real work, good work, the kind where I learned something every day. Uncle Martin came for dinner once a week. We'd sit in Grandma Helen's kitchen, which I'd slowly made mine, and talk about history and design and the particular challenges of being the family member who doesn't fit the script. He told me things about my father I hadn't known, about the pressure my grandfather had put on him, about the ways hurt people without meaning to or knowing how. I listened. I didn't forgive, but I understood better. My parents called twice over that first year. Once at Christmas, once on my birthday. The conversations were stiff and careful, full of the things people say when they're following a script called Normal Family, but nobody believes in the performance. I was polite. I was brief. I did not offer more than what was asked. I'm 25 now. The house in Arlington is fully mine in the way that places become yours through living in them. I painted the kitchen yellow. I fixed the garden. I adopted a cat from the MSPA shelter in Boston, an orange tabby named Biscuit who sleeps on my bed and judges my design choices. Maya still lives here, finishing her graduate program at Tufts. Uncle Martin still comes for Wednesday dinners. I'm a senior designer at Northlight Creative now, working on projects I actually care about. Sometimes I think about those 47 seconds on the operating table at Mass General. What happened or didn't happen while my heart wasn't beating? Whether some part of me knew my parents weren't there and decided something important in that darkness. I don't know. I only know I came back different. Not damaged. Different. Clearer. My name is Emma Reeves. When I had emergency heart surgery, my sister said I wasn't their problem anymore. My parents went to brunch. I died for 47 seconds and came back to find that the person who showed up was my uncle, and the inheritance I didn't know existed was a house, and the life I built afterward was my own. That's enough. That's everything.